Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. Now, I should probably address that the best member of the podcast is not here. She's unfortunately unwell, is Katie Fairman, so we wish her the very best in getting better. I think she's just got a cold, and we want her back very soon. Fingers crossed with a bit of chamomile tea or whatever she's having. It'll sort her right out. Tommy, though, you've turned up. How are you?
I'm good. Just buzzing after a scintillating day of Friday practice. I really, I was so happy not to have a qualifying session today. Just back to normal practice. It was wonderful, wasn't it?
For those of you that don't understand British humour, that was sarcasm. It was a very different day, wasn't it, Tommy, after Silverstone? Of course, we were there at the British Grand Prix. Lots of things that came out of it, the format, of course, the things that happened as well during the race. And then we went to Hungary today, and it's just back to old normal stuff, eh? So
something happened at Silverstone. Didn't hear about that.
Not sure. Actually, let's just get that out of the way, because of course we are previewing the Hungarian Grand Prix, but it's worth kind of just very briefly glossing over the decision from Silverstone. I say the fact that Red Bull protested after using Alex Albon as a dummy to go and basically recreate the lines that Hamilton took through Copse Corner.
That is genuinely one of the craziest things I've ever heard a team do. I think
it for me just smells of desperation. Like,
the whole thing is so desperate. I know some people, like, obviously everyone knows my allegiances, but I mean, it's just embarrassing. I was really disappointed from Red Bull. I obviously would love Max to win the championship, but the Red Bull were just acting like it was over. That was the final race. Hamilton's won the title, and there's such a long way to go. Red Bull have got an amazing car. Just, they can very easily still win this championship, and it just seems, like you say, they were so desperate that all it seemed to have done is just embarrass them, distract Max a little bit. We'll find out, although he seems back to his calm, cool self. And just a needless distraction for no reason, really. Don't know what they were hoping to get out of it. Obviously, they wanted a race ban, but
hoping for some sort of race ban or disqualification or things like that. But it just, you look through races years and years and years, and you don't see a team like this, especially protest what was already a penalty for a driver for something more than, when I think it was very much considered as not exactly. I mean, obviously Hamilton's fault, but I don't know. Anyway, it's obviously everyone has their own opinions on it, and this isn't a podcast about that. There is a question from Jack Gore _TRRYT says, do you think Red Bull will continue to fight the Verstappen crash at Silverstone, or are they done now? I don't think they have anything else to do, really. I think that's it. Like, they've protested. They have a right to protest a penalty, and the stewards, as far as I'm aware, basically threw it out before they even sort of reviewed it. They basically didn't hit criteria, did it, for it to actually go through the appeal process, the FIA, sorry. And so there's nothing more they can do now.
That's it. It's done. And thank goodness.
Thank God.
Get on with a scintillating Friday practice.
Yeah, let's talk about Hungarian Grand Prix weekend. Ricardo41 from the Team WTF1 Discord asks, given that people often compare Hungary to Monaco, will we see a similar pecking order? Now, myself and Tommy were very, very hopeful of Ferrari's potential, up the grid finishing positions, potentially some sort of pole position on the cards for tomorrow. But after today, it's been a little bit strange, because Hungary is obviously a very high downforce track, a lot of slow corners, a lot of things that you would imagine would link up with what the Ferrari has shown its strengths for this season. But they've had a very mediocre Friday, haven't they? Maybe they're sulking, Tommy. Maybe they liked sprint qualifying as well, and they just don't fancy doing fast times in Friday because it's boring.
Yeah, I know it's only Friday, but obviously they were still Monaco on that day. Obviously it was Thursday in Monaco when it was practice. You knew they were quick. They are not. They are not quick. They were 11th and 12th in practice 2. I'd be surprised if they're that far down the order. You've got like the Alpines, or maybe tend to do a bit of glory running, don't they? And on Friday, I'd be surprised if they were up there. But yeah, well, we all expected it. I think all our predictions were pretty much based on Ferrari hype and thinking that, this is Monaco without the walls, is the Hungarian cliche. And it's not been that way, especially, well, Mercedes as well were looking extremely strong. And of course, they were, especially Lewis, really struggled in Monaco. I'm sure Red Bull would have very much been hoping it was the same pecking order, with Verstappen winning and Hamilton finishing down in 7th, but it is not looking that way at all.
Not currently, but of course, as you say, only Friday practice. Anything can happen as we move over to a day that actually has any kind of reckoning on the championship, unlike the British Grand Prix, where we had action every single day. You can tell that both of us kind of enjoyed the fact that every single day meant something, but I don't think we also feel like the format we saw at the British Grand Prix was the final product either, Tommy. I feel like we both kind of understand.
There's tweaks to be made, isn't there?
Yeah. But I think both of us really enjoyed the fact that there was something happening of, whether it's qualifying or whatever, on each and every day, and that was the good thing about that, especially from being at the Grand Prix. I don't know if it translated onto the televisions as well, but certainly something that I hope they look at, tweak, and whatnot, because there's so many different formats they could try. Loads of different Formula racing series, try all sorts of things, Super Pole, etc. Maybe there's something there. Anyway, we interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our sponsor for this episode, LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Today, many small business owners are busier than ever because they are focused on managing and growing their business. They can't always spend the time they wish they could on recruiting. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier to find and hire the best candidates for free. You can get started by posting your job for free to reach LinkedIn's network of over 30 million professionals in the UK. Fill out targeted screening questions to get your role in front of the most qualified candidates with the experience, skills, and motivation you need. Then use simple tools to filter and prioritize the top candidates you'd like to interview. LinkedIn Jobs will help you hire the right person for your role, and your first job post is free. Just visit linkedin.com/WTF1. Again, that's linkedin.com/WTF1 to post a job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Right, let's get back to the podcast. Moving on back to Hungary. Vid for Hazam. You won't like this question, Tommy. Tsunoda is underperforming. Do you think he will get dropped if he continues this form at the end of the year? I wondered what you were doing there, and I realised you didn't want to listen to the question. You can see the sheet though. But of course, Yuki Tsunoda having a lovely little crash today, flying into the barriers at turn 4.
Yes, not the first time he's gone arse first into a barrier and destroyed the gearbox.
Yeah, there wasn't as much wobbling this time of the rear wing.
Twerking,
of course, about anything else. Yeah, it was. I think the likes of Helmut Marko, etc., will be running out of patience a little bit with Yuki Tsunoda, especially now with there's so much talk about the cost cap and every single pound matters in the grand scheme of developing the car for next year and so on. But if you're constantly replacing parts, that comes out of the budget, and that means you can't develop the AlphaTauri as much going into next year. So I think Yuki Tsunoda, with the crashes he's had already this year, it's cost maybe the team $1 million, $2 million. We don't know with the exact numbers and whatnot, but constantly crashing, not getting the results as well, doesn't look very good for him, does it?
No, it's not looking great. I mean, he's, like you say, it wouldn't even matter if, because let's be honest, Kvyat wasn't, like Gasly was unbelievable last year, and is really good this year. He's been seemingly top 6 pretty much every qualifying session without fail, it seems. And Kvyat had some obviously great moments, but he was kind of a little way off Gasly. So there would be no harm in Tsunoda just even if he's just maybe picking up 10th, 11th, 12th, and just building his way up, getting his confidence back. But every time he seems to have a decent performance, he's having another crash and, destroying the car. And when you need every bit of practice, we go back to the sprint thing, and obviously the excuse in the sprint qualifying format was he doesn't have enough practice. He said himself, this is going to be really difficult for the rookies because they don't have a lot of time to get the car set up and prepare and do all of that stuff, and really sort of like dial in the car and get used to it. So binning it at the start of FP1 and pretty much missing the entirety of Friday practice is not what you want to do when you do have 2 hours of practice this time to, because if he's in gets a good qualifying result at the end of the day, Hungary, I'm sure we'll go into it, is very difficult to overtake. So if he's getting 11th, 12th, maybe even the top 10, he's on for a great result, and that's all he needs. He just needs to be solid and show that he can, like progression, if anything. But that's the problem. It's the crashes that are more of a concern because, like you say, in this cost cap era, it's costing them a lot. Every crash is really bad for these
Yeah,
teams.
it definitely is. And, you say about this progression, and Yuki has had some good results this season, but he's not performing well enough that crashes are affordable. Like if he was beating Gasly half the time and then having the crashes he's had, then I think Helmut Marko and the Red Bull team would be like,
Look at Max.
fine,
Look at Max
no problem.
Verstappen.
Yeah,
We had these
exactly.
conversations. He had, I think it was like 7 crashes in a row or something, and a lot of people were getting on his back. But I think most people with a brain were like, "Well, he's a really, really, really good driver. You can
Yeah.
tell he's getting amazing results, and as soon as he cuts out the crashing, he will be unbelievable, and he's proving that now." Whereas Tsunoda, like you say, he's not at that stage of a career yet where they can just be like, "Oh, well, at least if you hadn't put it in the wall, you'd have been 5th or
Exactly.
something." He's just
Yeah.
not there. So
Okay, so enough Yuki
great.
slander, but yeah, it's not looking great for him at the moment. After such a promising start to the season, it doesn't seem to be going his way at the moment. And we know what the Red Bull program's like. We know that they are cutthroat, and unless he really picks up his performances, I'm concerned his fate might be similar to what Albon had last year. Next question, Ludologist 2014. If Lewis gets pole with the aid of Bottas and Merck take the lead in the team championship this race, do you think Valtteri Bottas will be safe in his seat? I don't think it's as simple as if Valtteri has a good race, they'll keep him, or he has a bad race, they'll get rid of him. I think there's much more strategy going in to the decision that they'll make as to who partners Lewis next year. I think it really does depend on Bottas's consistent performances and also George's consistent performances, although it's quite difficult to really get a massive reading into, how good George actually is when he's up against Nicholas Latifi. Of course, he's had that one wonder drive in Bahrain, which, no one would ever really be able to have a pre-audition to a seat that they want in the history of Formula One. But he's had that, which may well stand him in good stead. But I think it's more about the fact if Mercedes are willing to take the risk. We've spoken about this before. Are they willing to sacrifice a potential, a Bottas that turns up most weeks, is pretty much on the pace within undercut range, doing very much what Red Bull want Perez to do? Do they risk that to then bring George in up, against Lewis? Because there's ways in which it could work because obviously they need a number one driver when Lewis retires. So is it a good thing if George comes in next to Lewis, learns everything that a 7, 8-time, whatever world champion has to offer within the team? Would it be more beneficial for him to be alongside him, even if potentially there'll be a few wheel banging moments? That's the thing. There's so many scenarios they have to take on board, and they just have to decide which strategy they want to go with, the safe one or the risky one.
Yeah, this seat is so complicated, and it just seems to change every single interview I see. Is constantly changing. I mean, in the last race, Bottas jumped out of the way of Hamilton when he needed to. Obviously, he wasn't particularly spectacular in the race. We were obviously very critical, saying, how on earth has he not won that race when the two have collided, as in Max and Lewis. But he jumped out of the way. He gave him the slipstream I think he needed in qualifying. He jumped out of the way when he needed to. There was a video of him even checking Hamilton's car for damage, which shows that they're ready just to basically. They now know that Bottas will want to stay in a race-winning car, and they can tell him whatever the hell they like and make him do whatever they want because he wants to stay in a Mercedes, not be in a Williams or an Alfa Romeo. So then after that, I was kind of like, no, in this championship where Hamilton needs every point he gets, maybe it is the sensible decision that Hamilton, does have that backup driver. Could they trust George with that? Maybe George is more of a sensible driver, but it is a risk. But then you see interviews where I think F1 shared a clip where they're talking about you wanted the deal done by the summer break, and George can't stop laughing, and it makes you wonder if he knows something already because he's giggling away like very awkwardly to the point where obviously you can draw your own conclusions from anything. It could genuinely just be like, I don't want to talk about this, but obviously a lot of people have taken the conclusion that like surely he knows something if he goes into a fit of giggles every time they ask him about the Mercedes seat. So
yeah,
it's so difficult.
We all become sort of behavioral psychologists, don't we, when we watch interviews like that? We're like, we know exactly what he's thinking. He's got the drive or he hasn't got the drive. But that's the beauty of it all. We don't know.
I think the timing as well is really is a really interesting one when they choose to announce it, because they don't really want to obviously destroy Bottas's morale when he could be such a crucial player in this championship.
Yeah,
because Lewis needs every point he has. If they we saw Bottas blocking Hamilton in Spain or whatever, if things turn sour and they don't, I doubt Bottas would do that again, but he could just be like, oh, well, screw it, and say they've sacked him in the final race and Bottas is winning and Hamilton's second. He might be like, no, you're not having the championship. I'm going to win. And imagine the drama of that. So,
oh God, Netflix just be absolutely drooling over that. But yeah, it's a very interesting point. I think we've mentioned it before when people are asking, are we going to hear by the British Grand Prix who Mercedes are going for? Is it going to be George? It doesn't make any sense for Mercedes to make that decision, especially if they're getting rid of Bottas, to make it anytime soon. So they'll push this as long as they possibly can into the season, in my opinion. Right, next up, we've kind of mentioned it already, but we'll do it again. Andy Chianiello. Friday feeling a little bit anticlimactic for you without quali?
Yes, the end. Yes. Well, yeah, I think there's no surprise really. I think it was even more of a shock today. Obviously, everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of practice, but I think even more today after being on the back of that weekend where we got a glimpse of what Formula One could be like, where we get action every single day. And I'm sure the comments are flying in now, me saying this, and it's like, oh, but qualifying should reward the best driver and that's fastest and all this stuff. It's not perfect, but you literally get qualifying on a race. They even delayed it so people could watch it. I know it doesn't help for people in New Zealand and stuff, and they're saying, people saying, oh, it's at 4 a.m. because they're delaying it for Europe so people can get home in time to watch it. But it's one of those things where they can't please everyone. So please us. No, joking. But yeah, it's today felt flatter than normal for a practice session, I think, just because we came off the high of Silverstone of, it wasn't the greatest race in the world, the sprint race, but it was something that you got on that day. And we had an amazing qualifying session on the Friday, whereas today we just had 2 Ham bot vers and about 20 podcast questions asking about Silverstone instead of today. So clearly it's not exactly thrilling anyone, is it?
Especially you, I can tell it. You're upset, and it's sad to see. You don't want to see the founder of WTF1 upset because the memes just aren't then that happy. Right, Tommy. Apparently, you have a wholesome story in this sheet, so please fill us in.
I do have a wholesome story. So, congratulations to Daniel and Veronica from Slovakia. They are two massive Formula One fans. We've featured, they're both artists, follow us on WTF1. We've featured some of their work before. They were at the Hungaroring this weekend, and they met Sebastian Vettel at the airport, and Daniel gave Sebastian Vettel a note. Like they met him, got autographs and stuff, and he gave him a note to say, "I'm proposing to my girlfriend at this time. Would you like to come?" And Sebastian Vettel actually turned up. So he proposed to her Thursday night outside the circuit, and obviously Vettel had this note, and Vettel turned up. So they had their engagement. They got they took some photographers over and proposed. She said yes, and then they got to celebrate their engagement with their favorite driver, which is absolutely awesome. So that is just so cool. And
there's not many. Well,
drivers,
not many
do that.
Well, yeah, there's not many drivers, let alone world champions, that would turn up to something like that, and that's awesome. I saw the video actually. We did share it on our Twitter, didn't we? So
yeah,
that video is very very wholesome indeed. So congratulations to the pair of you, and well, I think that day they'll never forget, will they? So
I know. Imagine just like you say, just maybe a little bit of a cheeky message, thinking he probably won't show up, but just drop the invite there, and then he's actually there, like turns up, like,
so
hey guys.
good.
It just what a guy,
good.
What a guy, Sebastian Vettel.
What a hero! It's just Seb story after Seb story at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very true.
It's amazing. So we don't deserve Sebastian Vettel for sure. Right, moving on. Let's do a quick reminder of our predictions for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
A terrible pro Ferrari prediction.
So I went for Charles Leclerc podium, which I think, it's not as bad. We'll go with a Leclerc podium. Anything can happen. And Lando Norris gets his second out of top 5 finish. McLaren didn't look great today, so potentially. Tommy?
I went for Charles Leclerc pole, which is very unlikely, I think. But Hamilton takes the championship lead. I kept saying championship and then saying title. Championship lead, which
potentially
that's looking.
all he has
rather
to
good,
win, right? And
win
because he's 6 points. Is it 6 points behind? 7 points behind?
I thought it was 8.
Oh, it was 8. Oh, it was 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if it's Hambot there,
win and fastest lap,
he's definitely
maybe
done it. So yeah, I can see that happening personally.
Okay.
Shall see.
Katie, of course, who is unwell, not joining us today. Her 2 predictions were Russell Q3 and both Ferraris top 5 in the race.
We all went ham on Ferrari.
We really have. We've this isn't the ultimate jinx, I think, if they are horrendous this weekend. We've all said they're going to do well.
Yeah.
The fans went for Bumblebot 30 said Valtteri Bottas win. Looked quite good in practice today, but
always
Bottas does good in practice.
That
many
means
times.
Hamilton. Actually, just to mention it, I know he will say this, but Ted was saying that Bottas apparently was still sort of being like, "No, I'm still in this title, and it's totally possible." And I'm just thinking, like, you literally let Hamilton by in the last race.
You're like 5th in the championship.
Yeah,
if you're behind Lando Norris,
and also like you can say that, but if you're already basically there to check your teammate's car for damage, you're not a championship number
he's 4th
one
in
driver.
the championship right now with 108 points, and Verstappen is on 185. So he is 77, if I'm correct, points behind.
I guess if this next prediction comes true, that's the only way that Valtteri's getting a championship challenge.
And that one is LFC_Luke1 with feel like there's going to be another incident with Max and Lewis. He'll need a few of them, won't he, to get back in the hunt.
I don't feel like there's going to be a big incident, but I wouldn't be surprised if one
There's a
or the
squeeze.
other, a
A little
squeeze
squeeze.
pushing them wide onto the
Yeah.
runoff or the yeah, wouldn't surprise
It's
me.
just, yeah. If they're on the front row of the grid, I mean, just sign us up with the popcorn.
Yeah,
And finally, Noah G31, both Williams make it into Q2. We'll see. We'll see. With Tsunoda crashing every time, then maybe there's an opportunity for both of them to get through.
Latifi in his tank getting into
Yeah, that was a very strange pre-weekend activity for him to do. But there you go. Tommy, final thoughts?
bring back sprint.
Amazing, because I feel like the F1 community were very split on the sprint stuff. Some people really enjoyed it, maybe almost leaning towards more negative
I'd be curious to
than
know
positive.
people's thoughts now. Now we've sort of
Yeah,
got actually presented with something, because I know everyone. There's a lot of people that were like, "Well, nothing happened in the sprint," but now we've gone back to it, and you've back to
yeah.
that whole day where it doesn't matter. Then I'd love to know what
How do
people
we feel?
actually think. How do we
Let us know
feel?
in the comment section below what you think.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you already have. So if you haven't, please do. And that's it, guys. We'll be back for tomorrow with the quali watch along. It'll be myself and Katie, hopefully, because you're at the Silverstone Classic. Hopefully, Katie's better. Otherwise, it's a solo watch along with me. So
If
just be
I'll
me
be there in the
commentating
media
the whole
center,
time.
maybe I might
Yeah.
have to
Oh yeah,
find
with
him
your
from the media
Tim Pot
center.
microphone or something. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
Murray Walker style.
Yeah, that'd be good. But enjoy Silverstone Classic tomorrow, Tommy.
Thank you.
Of course, everybody enjoy qualifying tomorrow. The race, Internet's Best Reactions back on Sunday. Podcast again on Monday. Lots of content coming your way. So yeah, we'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.